Good morning, everybody. My name's Mike Hollands. I'm from Interxion, a digital realty company, and I'm delighted to welcome everyone to this morning's webinar. We're experiencing a transformational moment for the Iberian Peninsula due to the deployment of new state-of-the-art high-capacity subsea cable systems that connect the peninsula to a number of continents. As the map in front of you shows, we have Ellalink connecting to South America, a system due to go live in early next year. We have the existing Maria cable system and the planned Google Crace Hopper system connecting to North America. And we have 2Africa and Equiano connecting to the African continent. So what exactly is happening? Why is it happening now? And what are the implications for the interconnection landscape of Southern Europe? Well, joining us today are some executives who are at the heart of this transformation. And they have kindly joined us to give us their insights into these matters. I'm pleased to say we have Phillippe Dumont, the CEO of Ellalink, Carlos Dasi, the Chief Technology Officer at Telxius Cable. We have Ricardo Ochero from Facebook and Norman Albi from Barcelona Cable Landing Station. They've all spent some time preparing for this webinar, and we hope to use the time as effectively as possible to give you as much insight as we can. I will be directing questions to the panelists for the first part of the webinar, and I will put to them questions from the audience in the second half. I encourage you to use the meeting tools facility. On the panel on the right, you'll see a questions facility, and if you submit your questions through that, we'll endeavor to cover as many of those as we can during the webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and a link of the replay will be sent to all those who have registered later on today. So I'd now like to move on to our first topic, and I'd like to direct a question to Phillippe Dumont of Ellalink. And Phillippe, could you perhaps provide an overview of the Ellalink project and exactly the stage you're at the moment? So over to you, Phillippe.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Very glad to be attending this. Indeed, I think we are about to see the Iberian Peninsula taking a more and more important place in the overall global network. So Ellalink is taking its share of that. Ellalink is a new cable that connects Europe to South America. Specifically on the subsea part, it connects Sines, which is a little bit south of Lisbon, and directly 6,000 kilometers away to Fortaleza. We are at this very moment laying the cable, and we're due to be in service in spring 2021. At this moment, I see this around May timeframe. And there's been, as many of the cable under construction, great challenge to overcome the COVID-19 crisis. What I think is this cable changing is really latency between two continents. Two continents being Europe and South America, Latin America. When you look at that map, I mean, we did it on purpose. That map is upside down, or let's say not the usual way we would like to see it. I hope it's not confusing anybody. We do think of the Earth usually the wrong way when you talk about latency. And if you project this way, you'll see that Europe is in fact closer to South America than it is from from North America and the US. Well, not so much. It's 5,000 kilometers away from Fortaleza and 5,500 away from Miami. I'm just giving these little kilometers just because latency is by a large amount a factor of the number of kilometers between 2 points. So just to answer your question, Mike, well, you see that at that moment the west coast of the Iberian Peninsula is really best place to connect America and North America at the same time. And I think that makes a great geographical place.
Thanks, Phillippe. And I think you're also keen to emphasize that beyond North and South America, Ellalink is helping an intercontinental play for the Iberian Peninsula. Could you talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, well, it takes more. At that moment, it takes a little more than the west coast of the Iberian Peninsula to make this play. But if you combine Marseille, Barcelona, which are hubs in the Med, with whatever is happening on the west coast of this Iberian Peninsula, you do find yourself in an ideal situation. Okay, then where you are, well, all the traffic that's coming from or exiting Europe to Asia now starts to see a route Asia to Europe to South America or Latin America, and this is a very competitive alternative for Asian countries, which other route would be the other way around, and that other way around is much longer. It's much longer. So yes, the Iberian Peninsula, because of its geographical situation, starts to become a connection point, a hub, whatever you call it, between Asia and South America, North America, with the Americas. And that's something I'm sure Ricard will be keen to emphasize, is it's also extremely well placed to cover, to connect Africa. Lisbon has been, Sines has been over the last 1,000 years a port of entry for a lot of goods coming from Africa, and that's just a natural outcome now that it becomes a hub for data communication coming from Africa.
Thank you, Phillippe. Ricardo, one of the other systems we've illustrated is To Africa. Could you give the audience an overview of this project and some of the drivers behind it?
Well, the main driver of the To Africa cable was to enable a future-proof, scalable path between the African continent and Europe. It's true that in the last 10-15 years, new cables were built, but those cables were built before several step functions in terms of technology evolution have happened, like current technology. And as well, there are other differentiators that have prevented the development of those cables in furthermore in the landings that they have been serving Africa, which has been as well the business model. So To Africa represents an evolution in terms of technology that we are using to enable that future-proof connectivity, as well as an evolution of the business model to an open access cable system where companies invest at fiber level, they can manage independently their capacity and are not dependent on lengthy upgrade cycles, as most of the current cables that are serving Africa depend on. So said that, why connecting it to the Iberian Peninsula? Just to provide certain kind of diversity compared with where the cables land right now, but also To Africa is unique in the sense that it embraces all the African continent in a big ring, and that ring is closed through the Iberian Peninsula. If you just draw a line connecting Lisbon, Madrid, and Barcelona, you will be in a position to have a perfect ring protecting all the traffic in Africa, so that system can even support multiple fiber cuts and still be able to serve all those countries. So just to finalize, as Phillippe has said, Iberian Peninsula is playing a key role looking at its geographic position. It has been historically the door for the commerce in the Mediterranean, the commerce to Africa, and the commerce to America. And I would say that in the 19th century, the lead on the evolution of development of telegraphic cables was more led by other countries north of the Iberian Peninsula, but Iberian Peninsula itself has this unique position, which we believe puts them in the pole position to become a true digital hub in Southern Europe.
Great, thank you, Ricardo. And now, Carlos, very keen that perhaps you update the audience on the Telxius investments that have been taking place on subsea cables. It wasn't long ago that Telxius weren't owners of fiber pairs across the Atlantic, and now there's two key systems that you're involved with. Could you tell us more about the strategy of Telxius and the impact on the Iberian Peninsula?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mike. Well, basically, Telxius historically was more oriented to the American continent and not in Europe, but definitely when we start to collaborate with Facebook and Microsoft to deploy the Marea system, we start to think in Europe and mainly in Spain or in the Iberian Peninsula, because at the end our mother company is Telefónica, is a Spanish company. So somehow we were in debt with Spain because we didn't have a big system connecting Spain with the rest of the world. In this case, with the States. Once we start with Marea, we definitely need to have some diversity regarding the communications with the Iberian Peninsula. That's the reason why we're going to have some capacity in Dumont system. That is a system that will be deployed by Google, where we are going to have some capacity there. And in fact, we are going to have also some capacity in the Ellalink system in order to give us some advantage regarding the delay, as Phillippe mentioned before. I mean, at the end, the direct route between Europe and Latin America definitely give us some, let's say, competitive advantage, because the delay is a very important matter when we are talking about trading, transactions, or gaming, or this kind of application that are more sensible to the delay. And in the other side of the world, I mean, in the South American, we are finishing the replacement of the San Juan. The San Juan was the original system that we deployed at the beginning of this century. That is a ring that is starting in Florida, goes down to Puerto Rico, and covers all the continent. And now we are starting to deploy the SPSC, it's a submarine cable in the Pacific side that goes from Guatemala to Chile. And definitely we started to think in the final step, that is to prolong the new systems from Guatemala to the States and finally close the circle. And additionally to that, we are deploying our own European backbone. It's a small backbone, but very important for us is covering Madrid, Derio, that is our communication hub in Spain, and arriving to Paris to close the ring between Marea and Dumont. That's it.
Okay, Carlos, thank you. So we've heard about projects coming to the north of Spain, coming in from Portugal. Another angle to consider is Barcelona, and I'd now like to ask Norman Albi of Barcelona Cable Landing Station to outline investments he's making in coastal infrastructure to bring additional subsea capacity into the Iberian Peninsula. So over to you, Norman.
Thanks, Mike. Well, Barcelona is now a part of the wave of resiliency of the networks. For a long time, we have seen the main landings in the net to happen in Sicilia or to happen in Marseille, but now we see a new wave, or we see a new necessity for additional landings in the net with new routes that bring new routes and lower latencies. So in this case, we are creating a landing station in Barcelona that is not only a landing station. This landing station provides all the front haul, so all the necessary bitumen haul and ducts to interconnect the cable systems into the cable landing stations. We are building a cable landing stations that initially able to host up to 8 cable systems. It's an open access station, which is something new. It's something different to what people could find before, that the cable stations were vertically integrated to the operators. So in this case, we have open access. Let's say that similar to the same concept as data centers, but on the marine side. So cable systems, they can come in, they can activate their own fibers, they can operate their equipment, and they can interconnect with the terrestrial networks. Beside of the so we don't have we had the concept of expensive cross connects, so expensive backhauls. So this is not part of the Barcelona option. So Barcelona will be interconnected with the fiber networks in the city and with the fiber networks around the peninsula. In this case, Barcelona is a good route to get to Bilbao, but as Carlos described, it's a very good landing site for the cables that Telxius has been developing, as well as, of course, to Madrid and Lisbon, which is the second axis that is very important and that is driving quite a large number of traffic. The front haul, the works in the beach, they have been performed during the last 3 months. They are almost finished. And then the cable landing station and the land route will be finished by the month of June, July. So we'll be operationally in the 3rd quarter of the next year. And we expect to have the first systems landing in 2022 in Barcelona. Thank you, Mike. Mike?
Yes, thank you, Norman. I think one of the key points that's going to come across in the webinar is the importance of having the right infrastructure in the right place in an integrated manner. And Phillippe, I know that Ellalink are also focused on ensuring they have good infrastructure on the coast. Could you perhaps tell us a little bit about the Sines Tech Innovation and Data Center Hub?
Well, it's not every day that you do open a new landing for subsea cable, right? We do, a large amount of time, our industry tend to reuse the landings. Well, there are good reason for that. If they've been proven to be good landings, then it's a safe choice for new cables. And the second thing is that on land, you do have existing infrastructure which provide for possibly cost reductions. In the case of Ellalink, we've decided to take a step towards the creation of a new landing, and this is in Sines. Sines is 150 kilometers down south of Lisbon, and we did appreciate this choice for many reasons. In light, and the choice was made not only because of subsea cable, how adequate that was for landing subsea cable, but how adequate that was for building there a digital infrastructure. As people probably know, that's one of these few places in the Iberian Peninsula where you do see a lot of available lands, flat lands, reasonably inexpensive, connect with very nearby power lines, up to 400 kVs. Well, the thing is that Sines is strictly the industrial area of Portugal, so you do have a lot of energy company, oil and gas companies nearby. You do have a project of developing hydrogen, of the solar plants, etc., etc. And on top of it, because it's an industrial place, there was already existing a significant number of fiber routes going to Madrid and to Lisbon. And when I'm talking fiber routes, I'm talking fiber routes of high quality, which is quite important when you want to connect a cable system to the rest of the world. So yes, I believe Sines is only at the start. It's only in a link, and hopefully we're gonna see new cables arriving very soon there, very soon.
Okay, thank you, Phillippe. And Carlos, you mentioned briefly in your opening comments that Telxius had invested in the Derio hub. Could you tell us a little bit about the role you see the Derio hub playing in this interconnection landscape?
Yeah, at the end, when we start with the project, with the Maria project, well, we reuse all landing station that was used for a cable between Spain and the UK, because, well, it was a good idea. Everything from the, let's say, infrastructure perspective was done. I mean, the beach manhole, all the manholes coming from the beach to the landing station, and we thought that was a good idea to reuse all this infrastructure. At the end, is somehow we try to be eco-friendly, let's say. But definitely we are seeing that, well, the market is moving in other direction. I mean, and definitely in the same way that Norman is making in Barcelona. Somehow we need to extend the environment of the landing station and provide more services to our customer, not just for the owners of the cable, but also for other providers that can get access to the landing station, and in this case to the area that is our communication hub, and to interconnect between them, and to put another point in the peninsula. I mean, at the end, we are seeing that we have Sines in Portugal, we have Madrid as is in the middle of the peninsula, and is another hub where all the communications are arriving. Now we have Barcelona, where we are going to have more cables landing there. The north of Spain, now we have Marea, we are going to have also Grace Copper landing there. So somehow we need to define these hubs in different points of the peninsula, because at the end, diversity is vital for this business. I mean, we don't want to put all the eggs in the same basket at the end. So somehow this is a good point to have a different access, different connections, and at the end, as we show in the picture that Ellalink presents before, I mean, from Spain you have access to the 5 continents directly without any other intervention. You don't need to go to UK, you don't need to go to the north to get access to the States. You have access directly to Africa. Now with Ellalink we have direct access to Latin America. Through Barcelona and Marseille, we are going to have access to Middle East and also to Asia. So definitely Derio is part of this strategy, and at the end it's not a matter of competence, it's a matter of being complementary, so at the end it's an ecosystem that we are creating. There are different actors, and everybody has his own role, and well, I think that we are in a good shape and progressing in the right path.
Mike, I'd like to add something to Carlos. Yeah.
Please go ahead, please.
I think Carlos is pointing to a direction, if I may. I think he's pointing to a very important aspect of what we're trying to create is cooperation between the different actors and openness of the various infrastructure that are being created. The quality of the network that we will be building depends on that level of collaboration, okay, and the share of the infrastructure, because that defines diversity that will be available to our customers and the cost. Okay, sharing infrastructure does reduce the cost of our customers, and I believe it was important to state that.
Thank you, Phillippe. Appreciate that comment. Ricardo, you've heard the others mention about the investments that they're making in the coastal areas, about the importance of collaboration. Could you give me your perspective on the sort of the Facebook approach? Because I know you interface with many partners, and I think the audience would welcome hearing more about that.
Thank you, Mike. Definitely, as Carlos and Phillippe have pointed, it's a matter of enabling a sustainable ecosystem in the Iberian Peninsula. Is about developing partnerships, about the different actors in the market, and about sharing the cost and the risk of developing new infrastructure. I would say that we are just 1% of a journey then. It's nice to see cables landing in the Iberian Peninsula, and I'm really very proud of us together with Telxius and Microsoft starting that journey with Maria landing there. But just, I believe that the message that we have to share to the audience is that a lot of work is required and needed if we want really to be successful, looking at the 2023-2025 horizon in line with the Spanish digital agenda. Subsea cables without data centers go from nowhere to nowhere. Data centers without subsea cables are nice warehouses. But also we need to look at developing and enabling a good quality terrestrial fire networks, as Phillippe has pointed, and those has to be diverse, high quality, and also competitive, looking at developing a healthy dark fiber market in Spain, which compared with other markets is still far away of being fully developed. So a lot of efforts need to put there. We have a lot of infrastructure in the ground that is not used, like a lot of tons of ducts along highways, motorways, regional roads, that with the support of the government, regional governments, we hope that access to those ducts might be enabled so that carriers can invest and deploy new infrastructure that is essentially needed, not only to go border to border, but also to reach regions of the España vaciada that are very important as well to get connectivity. And I would say the other angle we have to look actively is supporting the development of renewable energy. The Nordic countries have a key competitive advantage with hydropower and the cost of hydropower. Today, solar energy and wind energy are very competitive, and it is expected that in 2-3 years from now, the cost per megawatt will be comparable to hydro energy. So we have to take all those things into account when thinking about Iberian Peninsula connectivity and how we can make it happen that the Iberian Peninsula becomes really the true hub for Southern Europe. And just to summarize, it's about cooperation, partnership, not only among carriers, but as well among the different administrations.
Thank you, Ricardo. And on the theme of partnership and cooperation, Norman, could you tell us a little bit about the partnerships, perhaps with the local administration that you've had to establish in order to make your holistic project a success?
Well, let's say that Barcelona, the last cable they had internationally, I think it was the Barcelona Sabona from Telefónica, that when we were developing the project, it was withdrawn from the sea. So for a very long time, I don't think that anyone has processed an international permit for landing in subsea systems. So that was a challenge for the national, the regional, the municipal government, and for up to 15 different other entities that they had to respond. So the first one that I think is something that the government of Spain is trying to solve it is who is responsible of what, okay, and who takes the major responsibility, because this was a major issue. Trying to process the permit is okay, who takes the responsibility? In this case, is we were lucky that there was an administration that pushed forward and say, okay, I take the responsibility, and it's within the law that is my responsibility. But before we were turned back by some other government twice, okay, because they say, oh, we don't want to do anything with permitting. So this is something we need to solve, and this needs to be addressed. But from the other part, once we started the process, it has been quite a long process, almost 2 years. And I think that now that everyone has learned how what a cable system means for the territory, on the environmental side, on the shore end, and we have, let's say that we have been able to explain. So we expect that in the next permittings, the process will be quite straightforward.
Okay, thank you, Norman. During the previous comments, we've heard quite a bit mentioned about the terrestrial element of the projects, and you mentioned this when you described the Cinestec, Phillippe. But could you tell us a little bit more about the customer strategy that drives your decision to invest in the considerable terrestrial infrastructure that is part of the Ellalink project?
It's quite simple. You don't build a subsea cable, you build a network and for customers. So you have to be there where your customers are. That's the basics. So obviously there are not so many customers in Cines. That's something you need to resolve. Okay, that's quite obvious. And a lot of customers, they are in Madrid, for instance. Okay. And in that respect, we are very happy to collaborate with Interxion for that in Madrid, and being there with our fibers directly connecting to this exchange. And I think our customer strategy has been always this: is like connecting continent, yes, but in fact connecting customers from one side of the ocean is really what we should say. And at that moment, when you say this, it's not about technology, it's about connectivity. Where are these customers? Where is it easy for them to connect their network to our network so that we generate revenues? And the choice has been to create a network very reliable that connects Madrid, Lisbon to Fortaleza, Sao Paulo, and Rio. Okay, and in the case of the Iberian Peninsula, the choice has been one. Since we're spending $100 million on subsea cable, we are going to spend a bit more money to have a very good fiber networks. Because if you do not do that, then whatever you spend on the subsea part is being ruined by the weakest element of your network. That might be terrestrial. So we did put a lot of attention on the terrestrial networks from Cines, Lisbon, and Madrid. It's a ring, it's protected, and we took it one step further. And once that step further was to decide that our SLT, the transmission equipment, would be located in these places. So in the case of Interxion, okay, in Madrid, some of our SLT will be located in the Interxion centers directly there. and that just provide for a lot of benefit, cost, simplicity of managing the network, yeah, these are the two main elements. So yes, the customer has been a focus, and that has driven the choices we've made on the network, the terrestrial network in particular, and where we would be putting our transmission equipment.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. We've had some questions come in from the audience, and I'd like to go to a few of these questions first. We have a question from Teresa Bobis. This is directed to you, Ricardo. Could you tell us about the quantity of traffic you expect Facebook to be directing towards the Iberian Peninsula? How is the traffic flow shifting? And perhaps during your answer, you could give everybody an idea of how things have developed in terms of those traffic flows over the last 7 years while you've been at Facebook.
Well, let's start with the last part of the question. When I joined Facebook, we were running leases, and it was just having a couple of 100G circuits in our network, transatlantic. And in the last 7 years, the problem has kept evolving from carrying on a couple of 100G circuits to carry on a couple of terabits, to carry on a couple of tens of terabits, to carry on couple of hundreds of terabits across our network in an efficient way. So this is where we are right now, trying to solve the problem of carrying hundreds of terabits, looking at just transatlantic. If we just look at African continent, well, the demand of the African continent connectivity towards Europe is not at the same level of development as in Europe, but keep in mind that Europe is what? 500, 600 million people. Just Africa is today 1.3 billion people. And with the acceleration of the 4G deployment and the migration from 2G to 4G, we could really foresee African continent in 5 years from now being at a significant higher level of demand in terms of traffic connectivity than it is today. How much of that is Facebook? Well, it depends in what kind of applications we might be thinking about. When I joined the company, well, we had just Facebook, then it came WhatsApp, it came Instagram. A lot of things have changed. And of course, we see that the development of new applications is coming. Gaming is now becoming a hot topic in the OTT level, and we can see augmented reality, virtual reality knocking the door. And I believe that COVID has been a learning experience for all of us, but I would say that it has accelerated as well the development of some of those new applications. So when we invest and develop submarine cable or terrestrial fiber infrastructure, we just try to do it in a way that allows us future growth and support of our business needs, and be as much flexible as possible.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo. Another question is quite a specific one, and it's for you, Norman. The question is, what's the maximum number of subsea cables that the Barcelona cable landing station is planned for?
We have up to 8 positions, both in the front haul and the CLS. And we understand that after these 8 positions are full, we will look for another place to have diversity and resilience of landings in the coast. So we think that beyond that number, it's better to look for another locations and to provide an alternative to the new cable systems.
Okay, so you mentioned, that quite a room for quite a number of cables, but also in a previous comment, you mentioned that it's a while since a cable actually landed in Barcelona. Why do you think the market has changed and that now is the right time for Barcelona cable landing station?
Well, we think there are two drivers that are positive for Barcelona. One is as we said, the resilience and the change of technology. I mean, we have seen that before the cables, they had 1 fiber pairs, 2 fiber pairs, they were coming from very far away. And of course, sharing these fiber pairs was a challenge. So you cannot have many landings in many countries. So people were landing, especially in Marseille, in France. So, but today the cables, they are coming with 16, 12, 16, 20 fiber pairs. So it means that the cables, they can land in more locations, and they can drop some fiber pairs in one location. They can drop some fiber pairs in another location, because finally what they want is to have resilience. Also, as the drivers are the data centers and the large connectivity, we will see some systems providing strong connectivity in Southern Europe, between the main location of Southern Europe. And of course, Barcelona is an entry to the Iberian Peninsula and will attract some of the systems. And then there is last but not least, is that we have the North Africa connectivity, which is, we are in the Med. So in the Med, we have Southern Europe, but also we have the North Africa. But we should remember that almost 100% of the traffic of North Africa is ending in Europe. According to telegeography, we can say that almost 100% of it is ending in Southern Europe. So Spain today is playing part of the traffic, but we think that there are new routes that are possible to develop in that area of the Met, and that are going to be developed following also the concept of low latency and the concept of diversity and resilience. So that's where Barcelona again can be a player and will be a player for sure.
Okay, thank you, Norman. The next question is for the panel in general, but perhaps I'll ask Phillippe to take the first shot at the answer. Phillippe, the question is that with so many systems under construction and planned for the next few years, how confident are we that the subsea cable industry can supply cable and install in line with the requirement? Is there a need for more investment in cable manufacturing and vessels? I know you have Ellalink all sorted, but I thought perhaps you could still provide an industry perspective on this one.
Well, I think we need more vessels. I don't think we need more factories. Yeah, it looks like there is a shortage of vessels at this moment, which does create a bottleneck for the industry. And I think contrary to whatever happened before, let's say in between in year 2000 and year 2015, we do see a very solid pipeline of new cables arriving everywhere in the world. So that supply is not anymore as erratic and cyclical that it used to be. It's not, in fact. So I do encourage the suppliers to invest. I think they've been reluctant. I'm well placed to say this. They have been very reluctant to invest because of the cyclicality of that industry. It's not anymore the case. I think the plans from Facebook and Google are incredibly ambitious, and I don't see them stopping tomorrow morning. So yes, I think they do need to invest in some areas, not everywhere, and vessel in particular.
What I would like to add, Mike, is that Iberian Peninsula is lucky. This is not a PowerPoint slide that is being circulated in multiple conferences. This slide here represents cable, Marea, full operational and service, and the other cables are full contract in force and under manufacturing process. So we don't foresee any delay, any impact. Au contraire, Iberian Peninsula is going to have the cables delivered on time, and might help Iberian Peninsula to position itself towards other regions of Europe that might be at the planning phase right now, and have to wait until those cables are built before they get the next slot, either in manufacturing or in marine melee vessels.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. There are a lot of questions, so I want to move on. Carlos, you did touch on this, but one question that's come up is, Telxius already has a lot of business in South America. How will this business be impacted by the Ellalink cable? The pros and the cons, perhaps. Over to you, Carlos.
Well, basically, as well, it's a good question. But anyway, I think that is different. Our focus as business is today is to transport or to make business between Europe and the States and Latin America. We had a very small part, very small part of our business connecting directly Europe with Latin America, and most of that customer were are corporate business. I mean, because they need some strict restrictions regarding delay and so on. In our general business, our focus is in internet transit. Well, obviously, there are going to be more traffic directly through Ellalink between Europe and Latin America, for sure. But I don't see a real impact in our business because we are dedicated totally. I mean, at the end, our traffic is moving from Europe to the States and from Latin America to the States. So I don't see a real risk in our P&L. So at the end, as I mentioned before, it's complementary. I mean, we are going to have advantage for some customers using the capacity that we will have in Ellalink, is part of our business. But it's definitely not. I don't see a big risk on that.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Norman, one word that is often mentioned is the word neutrality when referring to data centers and cable landing stations. Could you clarify from your perspective the importance of neutrality for your proposition?
Yes, thank you, Mike. So normally there is a tendency, as Phillippe said, that part of the SLTs of Ellalink will be located in Madrid. So we see a trend that some of the SLTs for the cable systems, they are being located in data centers. Okay. So in this case, what we provide is that we provide an independent landing. And then since the cable systems, they come with 20 fiber pairs or 16 fiber pairs, finally we have 16 tenants, or we have 20 tenants in the cable systems. So we provide the possibility for each one of the tenants of the fiber pair to terminate the fiber pair and to put the transmission equipment wherever they want. If they have an agreement with a data center, we can provide the infrastructure all the way to that data center, and they can get installed and they can get a direct agreement with that data center. Let's call data center A. If some other guys in that cable system, they have some other fibers and they want to terminate in another data center, they are free to do so. So what we do is that we provide an independence from the infrastructure of the cable to where each one of the tenants they want to go. Okay, so maybe in some cases we might end up with tenants that they land in Barcelona, but they want to put the SLTs maybe in Bilbao. Okay, which might be something maybe a little bit extreme, but it might happen. So with this, we provide a neutrality. So it's not a data center that is owner and by default, they have to go to a given data center in that location. If not, that they can select wherever they want to go. And then I would like to add something else that we were talking about terrestrial networks. In this case, when we interconnect the cable landing station with another position, with a data center, we did the submarine way. What I mean is that we're talking about the availability and the resilience of terrestrial fiber networks. We are not leasing a fiber pair because we cannot, or a system that is coming from 5 kilometers away and that has spent, as Phillippe said, millions of dollars under the sea. They cannot depend on a fiber leased by a third operator that is subject to planned works. Okay, we have seen this scenario, which is the normal scenario for the terrestrial networks in the Iberian Peninsula, but this is not what the subsea world is looking for. Okay, we cannot have planned works in the networks. We need to have fibers that go straight from our CLS to the data center, and that they don't stop anywhere, that they don't cross any patch panel, that simply they go point to point in a safe. And of course, not in a single configuration, if not at least in protection or on 3 routes if possible. So this is a change of concept that we are bringing, of course, into Barcelona. This is the way we are interconnected with the data centers in Barcelona, because what we believe is that the subsea culture and the subsea availability needs to be transported to the terrestrial networks and to the end destinations, wherever each one of the tenants, of the final tenants, they want to go. This is the concept of neutrality for us, but it's the concept also of the subsea mentality on the terrestrial networks. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Norman. Phillippe, perhaps you can tell that the next question is for you. And this comes from Menno, and his question is, I can tell from experience, the latency from Fortaleza to Amsterdam through the US is high and also not predictable. How redundant is Ellalink, and do you already plan a second route or loop to Fortaleza?
I'd love to. This gentleman is right. I think it's important if this Ellalink cable proved to be a very successful cable from an economical perspective, that it meets its customer, for sure there will be a second cable. He's right. He's right. Now, I think Carlos pointed at something. He said the Ellalink is not going to be materially affecting in a good or a bad way the Telxius. Is right, because at this moment this route is a very thin. Okay, the big routes are US to Europe. They're soon to be possibly Europe to Africa. This route is a thin route, okay, that does have a significant number of advantage. And the reason why that route has been made possible is because of the business model we have chosen. By making a very cost-effective cable, number one, and by making sure that there was a significant number of anchor customers that were prepaying this infrastructure. Otherwise, if you only look at the traffic from Fortaleza to Europe, it's a small amount, growing, yes, but still something that would be challenging just for a cable. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. We will see after a few years if there is a need for our customers, and if that's the case, a new second cable will be built for sure. Hopefully by Ellalink.
Okay, thank you. We have 6 minutes to go to the end of the webinar. We do have more questions, but I think our approach is probably going to be to try and answer a lot of these with the panel afterwards via written responses. So I'd now like to go to the panelists for any final comments or observations. Ricardo, could I go to you for your summary first, please?
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to follow up on something that Phillippe has mentioned before that I believe is very important and relevant. When you work in the design of a submarine cable, it does not end at the beach manhole or at the cable landing station. You have to look at the end-to-end design, pop to pop. At the end, the submarine cable purpose is to connect hubs to each other wherever the hubs are located. And right now, there is as well, because of the technological evolution, the possibility of having the transmission equipment further distance, several hundred kilometers from where the cable lands there. But what this implies is that it puts a lot of pressure on the quality of the terrestrial network. There might be, you know, a 200 kilometers terrestrial network with standard quality can have a huge impact in the performance of a 10,000 kilometer submarine cable. You might lose 20% of the capacity by doing that. So there is the need of deploying new quality grade terrestrial fibers that really match the quality of the subsea fibers. We are talking about GC54E, ULL fiber type. And for that, we need really to have access to existing ducts, existing subduct infrastructure for this to happen. So it's something that we have to keep into account, that subsea cables don't stop at the beach. They go to hubs, and just as Phillippe has mentioned, it's about building resilient networks to serve your needs and the need of your partners. In our case, yes, we have a lot of traffic demand, but when we work and develop together with other partners submarine cables, we don't look only at Facebook needs, we look as well at the needs of our partners and just make sure that the design fits to the multiple purpose of everybody investing in the submarine cable.
Thank you, Ricardo. Carlos, could I now go to you for your summary?
Yeah, from my side, thank you, Mike. Well, basically, reinforce the idea as Ricardo mentioned. I mean, we need to, in the case of Spain, basically, we need to reinforce our backhaul and our backbone in Spain, our terrestrial backbone. Not just because we need more fibers, because we need more quality and more diversity. It's vital for the evolution of the business, and if we want to see more cables landing in Spain or in Portugal, we need to have a better backbone, terrestrial backbone in Spain. Another interesting point was mentioned by Norman, and I think is very interesting, is the permits. When we need to deal with the local authorities, with the mayor, with the governments, with the coast authority, there is multiple actors in this kind of permits, and we need agility. A permit cannot be a stopper for the deployment of a new infrastructure that at the end is putting more business, more money in the country, and so how this is something that is impacting positively the country and the people and the enterprise that are in the peninsula. Definitely, to have all this ecosystem is a competitive advantage for our enterprises. So somehow we need to get more collaboration coming from the governments and from the local authorities. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. And Norman, could I go to you for your summary, please?
I think that the objective of all of us is that to transform the Iberian Peninsula in a gateway for the landing of international cables. Definitely, Lisbon site has been a gateway for centuries, we should say, but the rest of the Iberian Peninsula, we are still fighting to make it happen. In the case we are in the net, we concentrate and in the net we have Southern Europe, we have Africa. We say that we have a large, as Ricardo said, there is a lot of traffic coming in. Today is not much. Today Africa, Europe is 14 terabit, but we are growing at 45% per year. So this brings a big opportunity, because with the introduction of large capacity cables, even is going to grow more. So it brings a big opportunity for the Iberian Peninsula as a whole, whether it's Lisbon, whether it's the net area, to become that gateway. And to develop that gateway, I think we have to work in all the sense, from the permitting, from the transport, from creating the ecosystems, so for making things easy, let's say this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Norman. And Phillippe, over to you for a few words of summary. Sorry, Phillippe, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think all have been said. Iberian Peninsula is extremely well located, geographically speaking, historically speaking, to connect the traffic flow from the Americas, from Africa, and from Asia. The arrival of new subsea cable, it was Maria first, after a long period of silence, then Grace Hopper to Africa, Ellalink, and I hope few other cables in the Barcelona cable landing station are going to make a lot of data converge into this peninsula. And I think it's up to us collectively to take that advantage and make this place of the world, as you said, Norman, a gateway for a lot of the traffic. And I'm very confident that will happen over the next 10 years.
Thank you, Phillippe. I mean, it's clear that this is a new era for the role of the Iberian Peninsula on the intercontinental stage. The investments we're seeing in subsea cables and the coastal infrastructure, are complementary and almost as if synchronized, with systems coming in from different parts and different continents. We've seen that the panelists illustrate how their projects integrate with one another, interplay with one another, and there's a high degree of collaboration between them. We see Facebook working with telcos such as Vodafone and deploying network nodes at data centers such as Interxion. We've seen Ellalink collaborating with Telxius in Latin America. And we see Barcelona cable landing station integrating its proposition with that of terrestrial capabilities. All the panelists have illustrated that the key factor sculpting their projects is a focus on serving needs of customers. And this is exemplified, in my opinion, very, very well by one of the slides of Phillippe, where, in his words, he's not building a submarine cable system, he's building a network and ensuring that by focusing on the end users, you're building data center to data center, as his artist who's worked on this slide and clearly spent a good time on it has very well illustrated. And who benefits from all this effort? Well, this is where I'd like to set the attendees a little bit of homework. If you're going to understand who's going to be driving traffic onto these systems, I suggest you visit a publicly available database on the internet called PeeringDB and have a look at the content companies, the cloud, the gaming, and other related service providers who are based in the Madrid data centers. You'll see them all listed on this database. Visit also the websites of the internet exchanges in Madrid, Hispanix and DKIX. Notice that DKIX markets its Madrid internet exchange as the fastest growing in the world. Look at their list of members and you'll see the people who are going to really benefit from the new internet highways connecting the Iberian Peninsula. Thank you to all the speakers. They've shared a lot of insight and been very open. And I'd like to just remind everybody that a recording of this webinar will be made available to all those who registered later today. Thanks finally to all of those who have attended. We've had over 200 participants on the webinar today, and I hope everybody's understanding of the role of the Iberian Peninsula in the internet landscape has been enhanced. This brings the webinar to an end. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.